wave, like wave in the ocean.
Ah.
That was, I think, a book that a teacher wrote based on real events in America. And then they made some American TV movie from it, and then they remade it in Germany because of the Nazi context and everything.
Yes.
And we just rarely do movies. Actors need a job, I guess. And it turned out pretty decent because they made it more violent, and that worked a lot better because it made the situations more drastic. And it really shows how within a week you can make high schoolers become this wannabe elitist force who's willing to use violence on people who think differently or who don't want to be part of their group.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It sounds pretty heavy, but it sounds good. Sounds very interesting.
It's really good. It's really good.
Because I mean,
you shouldn't be squeamish.
Yeah.
Especially not around the end.
Yeah, I've heard about how people can be thought reformed very quickly, like with the religious cult, the Moonies. The way people have gone to them and they've become involved in just 1 week, and by the end of the week, they're a
we should all be Jesus.
We should.
Well,
yeah,
if you go by Discordianism, you can be a pope.
Yeah.
Yeah, Discordianism is the I think it's the book called Principia Discordia. The only tenets of the religion. It's kind of a joke, but I mean it has it's kind of funny in a way. Every person is a pope, but not everybody's a saint, and the only way that you can become a saint is if a pope makes you a saint.
Okay, that's really screwed up.
And the only thing that you cannot do is you cannot eat, I think, hot dog buns on Friday. It's either Friday or Saturday. You can't eat hot dog buns.
Well, it's
I
pretty
never eat
bizarre.
hot dogs anyway.
No, it's okay to eat the hot dog, just not the hot dog bun.
Oh. For me, that hot dog is like the entire concept. Because otherwise it's just a bun and a sausage, you know? It becomes a hot dog by joining.
I don't know. I mean, I sometimes I get drawn into conversations. I can't remember what what was that one guy that kept coming after me on your one of your videos. What was it?
Oh, I forget.
No Warp something. I can't remember his name.
I can't remember either.
He kept. I mean, I like having discussions with that, but when it's almost like I was. It's like look, guy. Even if there's a possibility of aliens, there's no reason to believe in them. There's no reason to accept it as true. I was just like, why? This is silly. I mean, the whole thing grew out of talking about what aliens look like.
Oh, yeah.
And I just...
I find those guys really funny because it's like they claim they know the truth. And they know because they know.
Yeah, and they have this mountain of evidence, and they talk about it in such general terms, and it's like, well, why don't you pick one of those pieces of mountain of evidence, and let's look at it really closely.
Oh, yeah.
And see what we can, but then, oh, no, don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's very true.
We can't examine one of those pieces of evidence up close, because then, we might find a hole in it.
Yeah.
Just fall apart.
The kind of logic they have is, well, if there's aliens, or even the inclination that there could be aliens, the possibility of, any way, shape or form, just the slightest possibility, then it must be our aliens. It can't be like a different version. It must be.
They must be doing something.
Yeah, they must be doing what we reckon they're doing because we've had, psychics and channelers tell us that the Galactic Federation is doing this or that.
Yeah.
It's really, really bizarre.
And they must look like us.
Yeah. But that's the funny thing, isn't it? All the aliens, they all have, 2 eyes, 1 mouth. They have a nose, even if it's only a flat nose with many of them. But most of them have very, very similar characteristics: 2 arms, 2 legs. You very rarely get a non-humanoid alien, and you'd think that, at least they would be the vast majority. the vast majority would not be like us.
Here's my advice to them. Go read some H.P. Lovecraft. He had wonderful aliens. They were all shapes and sizes. Some of them look like cones. Some of them look like barrels. Some of them look like flying mushrooms.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? That, obviously, I mean, I believe that a number of key speakers like Professor Richard Dawkins has talked about this, that if there is alien life elsewhere in the universe, as obviously many people now consider to be a huge possibility, obviously, that it's going to evolve through a Darwinian evolutionary process, natural selection. So it's not going to automatically come to be like us. And that's what a lot of New Agers, a generalisation here, but a lot of New Age people can't seem to really grasp, because I suppose perhaps because many of them don't believe in evolution in the same way. They believe more in perhaps some kind of reptilians coming down and then making us human. And then they use it as an excuse. Oh, the aliens, their aliens have been to every planet which they need to go to, and they've created all the humanoids. And it turns into really very circular language and a very circular logic.
Yeah, well, I think this one guy, he was talking about, we don't know all there is about evolution, and often it's the results are deleterious. And I'm like, well, even though there are a lot of deleterious, it means it has a negative impact. It means if something evolves, it evolves kind of like in a backwards direction. Like it doesn't evolve to have an advantage. It evolves to have a disadvantage. And even though that may be the case, that doesn't mean evolution is not taking place.
Absolutely. I think he kind of he's putting across a point, but it's a very poor point, because obviously variation being what it is, certain traits continue, and he's making the point that evolution isn't necessarily forward, I suppose, and he's saying that certain traits aren't necessarily progressive, but the traits which are evolutionary successful, they obviously continue as you would recognise, so yeah.
I think I stick with Dumas on this one.
Yeah?
It's the guy who wrote the book that La Traviata was based on. So it's got nothing to do with science, but in one instance in the stage play he says, nature is wasteful. And I agree with that, because nature seems to just try out everything and see what lasts.
Yeah. Whatever works, I think. Definitely. And I suppose it's true.
Seems to be successful.
They say that, what's it? As a rough percentage, they say 99.99% of all life which has ever existed is gone, dead. So the various kinds of bacteria, various forms of, whatever, single-celled life forms, all the way up to, something as complex as, some of the larger animals out there, they've all basically died off because of change and variation. So, life is hugely wasteful. It's little wonder that we are so wasteful as a global civilization, humanity. We seem to be in the same sort of process, as nature itself. Wasteful and destructive, in a way.
Yeah, I think it's nature in itself is probably going to survive, because it's an abstract concept, and we're humans, so we expire.
True. At least nature keeps itself relatively in check. Like if there's too many foxes breeding who kill too many rabbits and too many other small creatures, they can't feed themselves, therefore the fox population would naturally diminish, or something to that effect. Things keep themselves in relative equilibrium. Whereas with obviously with humanity,
we can cheat.
We're worse.
We can cheat a little.
Yeah.
We're not going to get away in the long run.